Hi everyone, welcome to Elvis Presley Past, Present and Future. I'm glad you could be with me for another week on our Elvis journey. Finally, we have arrived to the concert years where Elvis went back to live performing again in 1969. And we've got to think how nervous he must have felt, because he had played in Vegas years earlier and he bombed. So you can imagine yourself going back to the same venue years later. It'd be in your mind. How am I going to go? They're going to hate me again. So you can just imagine how Elvis must have felt. The nervousness he must have had. But we will get on with our episode. And as always, I'll take you behind the scenes and the lead up to that opening night. On January 24, 1969, after completing the first recording sessions at American Studios, Elvis takes a winter holiday to Aspen, Colorado. He went with Priscilla and Lisa, returning for more recording on the 17th. The International Hotel was a hotel located at 3000 S Paradise Road, Las Vegas. The hotel was sold to the Hilton chain in 1971, becoming what was known as the Las Vegas Hilton, later known briefly as the LVH. In 2014, the LVH was sold to Central Florida Investments Company, or Westgate Resorts, which is the name that the hotel operates under to this day. Having failed in Vegas 13 years prior to his return to Vegas, Elvis was understandably nervous, but he had no reason for concern. Now, before he went to Vegas to start rehearsing and putting the show together, there were some very famous pictures taken of him prior to him leaving for Vegas. And that is these set of pictures here. Now, these pictures were taken in the driveway of his Hillcrest home, leaving for a rehearsal at RCA Studios on July 17, 1969. Now, a lot of people have said that these photos are not Elvis. They are fake, they are not real, whatever the situation may be. But I guarantee you they are real. They are photos that were taken of Elvis in the driveway of his Hillcrest home on July 17. And there are those lucky fans getting to meet him and get autographs at the gate of the home. Elvis returned to Las Vegas in 1969, playing from July to August, returning in January 1970. Elvis would play all over the country in the 70s, but it was Las Vegas that would forever become associated with this period in his life. The common pattern was to play Vegas for a series of concerts every January, often returning later in the year for another engagement, and visit other cities all over the country in between. The historic idea for Elvis's return to Vegas was negotiated by Colonel Parker and Alex Schufe, president of the International Hotel, owned by Kirk Kerkorian. The Colonel took notes on the tablecloth as they hammered out the deal, including a proviso that if Schufe left the hotel, the contract would be renegotiated. Following Elvis's first performance at the International Hotel in 1969, Colonel Parker renegotiated his residency in the hotel coffee shop now known as Sid's Cafe. Colonel Parker and the hotel executives wrote directly onto the tablecloth, agreeing to a deal that amounted to $1 million per year for 5 years. In 1971, Kerkorian sold the hotel to Baron Hilton, whereupon Shufi retired and veteran hotel executive Henry Lewin took over. Soon after, Lewin, a legendary tough negotiator himself, was visited by the Colonel, toting the old tablecloth with, among other things, the scribbled contract renegotiation clause. Suffice it to say, Lewin made a new deal. Colonel Parker wanted to put on a more traditional show, with showgirls and glitzy production numbers. But Elvis had a dream one night where he saw a straight-ahead concert in which he was backed by a large band, backup singers, and a 40-piece orchestra. When planning his return to live performing after his successful 1968 NBC television comeback, Elvis had to replace original band members Scotty Moore, DJ Fontana, who had returned to session work, and Bill Black, who had formed the Bill Black Combo before his death in 1965. Elvis's first call was to guitarist James Burton, who was from Ricky Nelson's band, whom he asked to help form his band. After knowing about him for many, many years and seeing him on television, Elvis wanted James Burton. After keyboardist Glenn D. Hardin declined Burton's offer to join the group, Larry Meherbach, who had played on several of Elvis's movie soundtrack sessions, accepted his offer to perform. In 1970, Glenn Hardin got a call from Elvis to replace Larry Meherbach in the TCB band. Hardin remained with the band until 1976. Burton later added Jerry Schiff on bass and John Wilkinson on rhythm guitar. And there is James Burton right there, who put together the TCB band after Elvis asked him to. Meherbach suggested Ron Tutt for drums to round out the section. By February 1970, Glenn Hardin joined on keyboards. He eventually replaced Meherbach, who returned to studio work in Los Angeles. At that time, Bob Lanning, a Los Angeles session drummer, joined on drums, replacing Ronnie Tutt, who returned later that year. TCB brought a new lease of life to Elvis's rock and roll sound. Larry London, a Nashville session drummer who recorded and occasionally toured with Elvis over a 9-year period, filled in for Ronnie Tutt on occasion during 76 and 77. Preparing for Elvis's new live show was an impressive undertaking. Luckily, Elvis had his new band clicked immediately. We rehearsed probably 200 songs, says Jerry Schiff. When we played them with him, it wasn't like a rehearsal, it was more just like we're having fun, like a big jam session. A San Francisco hippie with jazz and classical training, bassist Jerry Schiff had contributed to hundreds of West Coast pop sessions from Neil Diamond to Linda Ronstadt. The old songs from the 50s, Elvis turned those into medleys and we'd race through them, Schiff said. He put them in because he had to, but he squashed them down to the least time possible. He wanted to be taken more seriously by critics. That was his vision, to ease out of the rock and roll business and become more known for what he considered more adult type stuff. Glenn Hardin agrees. Elvis was convinced that he was probably the best rock and roll singer in the world, but he came to a point where he wanted to be a Perry Como. Hardin, a Lubbock, Texas native, cut his teeth with Buddy Holly's group, the Crickets. Then after a stint in the Navy, joined the house band for the mid-60s TV music program Shindig. There he taught himself the arranging skills that he'd used to give much of Elvis's live work in the 1970s its pomp and circumstance. I could make the arrangements pretty busy because he was such a powerful singer, Glenn recalls. A lot of the stuff for the Vegas show. He'd tell me the song, then he'd say he wanted it the next day. Sometimes it was more than one song. A lot of it. I did a lot of it. I did it without ever consulting him. When I got it all together, I'd usually stop by his dressing room before we went on and I'd play it for him. He liked everything I did. It was loose. In rehearsals and on stage, Elvis keyed off the guitar, said James Burton. We had great eye contact. He loved guitar. If I'd play a lick or something, he would just turn around and say, "Yeah, baby." It was great communication that all of us had. Burton had first caught Elvis's eye as a member of Ricky Nelson's band on the weekly TV show The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. As the chicken pickin' axeman rose to the top of the LA session scene, Elvis kept tabs on him. He knew one day that the day would come when they'd work together. Rookie drummer Ronnie Tutt, another Texan, had played with Western swing bands and symphonies before joining Elvis's band. I've always said it was like working for a stripper in the old days of vaudeville, Ronnie says. The drummers and musicians had to watch every move the stripper made to accent it with their instruments. With so many songs at his disposal, Elvis rarely followed a set list. You never knew which way he was going to go on stage, said Burton. He could change at any moment. He'd say, "James, give me an E." Then he'd go into whatever song he had on his mind. He'd play Stump the Band, Glenn Harden said. He'd try to find little ways to pull something on us. I don't think he ever did, because we were watching him so closely. We were playing in the Forum in LA one time, and he was about as far away from me on the stage as he could possibly be. He bent down to kiss a girl, and I guess she whispered in his ear, "Do Blue Christmas." As he raised back up, he went right into it. Now there's only 3/8 notes as pick-up notes. I'll have an E, and the whole band came in. It was like that non-stop, but he was always very appreciative that we were there right on top of him. Ronnie Tutt said, as time went on, he would use more and more karate moves to cut off songs, and during songs where there'd be musical interludes or solos. Because they're almost quicker than the eye, those moves, I felt like that was the only way for me to really understand him. And I was to study the same form of karate as he did. We'd have great lessons and workouts up in his suite. It helped me a great deal to understand how he moved. Chef takes the idea of bodies moving in synchronicity even further. When you play music with people, especially when the concentration is that focused, it's probably the most intimate relationship with other human beings. You may not even like each other off stage, but when you're up there, it's a wavelength. It's like that. Elvis understood that. The intensity was balanced out with practical joking. For all his iconic status as the king of rock and roll, Elvis often acted more like a jester on stage and off. He was always coming up with something silly, said Glenn Harden. Once, he introduced me and said, "You know, somebody told me the other day that the D in your middle name stands for Dolores. Is that true?" I said, "Why, hell no." Elvis said, "Well, I think it is. I was told by somebody who ought to know." He just went on and left it at that. He'd do imitations too. He did Engelbert Humperdinck and Tom Jones real good. He could also do Dean Martin a bit and Mom's Mabley. He would sing Happy Birthday to me a lot, James Burton said, even if it wasn't my birthday. Jerry Schiff says one night he brought on one of those little battery-operated laugh boxes to the stage and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to meet Colonel Parker." As far as the humour is concerned, says Ronnie Tutt, Elvis, as much as anybody I've ever known in my life, loved to laugh. He was a very emotional man when it came to that. He didn't hesitate to laugh or cry. His whole life was built around trying to find humour in things. Because the hotel was new, Elvis insisted he not be the first performer to play in its ballroom for the fear of technical glitches. So Barbra Streisand was hired to open the room. On Friday, July 31, 1969, Elvis launched his run. He was in good shape, down to 165 pounds, having trained with wrist and ankle weights. He had several jumpsuits made of stretched gabardine by the same company that made costumes for the Ice Capades. The high collars were to cover his neck, which he thought was too long. Stars that opening night included Cary Grant and Sammy Davis Jr. All packed the audience. The Colonel quickly inked a deal for Elvis to appear for 2 4-week runs a year for 5 years. Rumour has it that the Elvis act was the first Vegas show to actually make money, as opposed to being a loss leader to attract gamblers. And it pointed a new way for Vegas. February 26, 1969, Elvis signing his performance contract with the International Hotel in Las Vegas. Now, this photo opportunity was actually staged. The actual contract signing did not take place until April. So there you go. So those photos were staged. Elvis was probably having a look at how the building was coming along, when it was being built, and all that kind of thing, and they did a photo shoot and decided to make it a photo shoot of him signing the contract. But the contract signing didn't happen till 2 months later. Elvis arrived in Las Vegas a week before the show and immediately began rehearsing 5 hours a day, losing 10 pounds in the process. He doesn't know if he can still cut it. Presley Magic were his loyal fans, women and teenage girls who lined the corridor outside his suite. The season began on July 31 and ended on August 28, 1969. He performed 57 shows, all of them with audience records. After this opening show, he gave a press conference. Elvis was handsome, with an imposing presence. After the reception of the public and the press, who did not stop applauding as soon as he appeared like a divinity through the door of the press room, the questions started. And these were some of the questions that Elvis answered. Question: why have you waited so long to perform live again? Did you return to live performing because of the phenomenal success of Tom Jones and Engelbert Humperdinck? Elvis shook his head at the suggestion. I think they are great, but my decision to return was made in 1965, and it was hard to wait. I don't think I could have waited any longer. We had to finish up the movie commitments before I could start on this. I missed the live contact with the audience. It was getting harder and harder to sing to a camera all day. Question: did you enjoy playing live again? Elvis: yes. This has been one of the most exciting nights of my life. Question: did you feel nervous during the show? Elvis: for the first 3 songs, more or less, yes. I didn't feel relaxed until after Love Me Tender. Question: why did you choose a black support group? Elvis: they help me feel. They reach my soul. Question: do you like to wear leather jackets like the one you wore in your TV special? Elvis: no. I hate wearing them because they get too hot when I'm working. Question: how did you choose the songs for the show? Elvis: I just sang my favourite songs. Question: do you want to do more live shows? Elvis: I want to, yes. I would like to play all over the world. I chose Vegas to play first because it's a place where people come from all over. Question, is it true you dye your hair? Elvis, sure, I've always done it in the movies. Question, why have you led such a secluded life all these years? Elvis, it's not secluded, honey, I'm just sneaky. Question, do you still own about 10 cars? Elvis, I've never owned that many, only 4 or 5 at most. Question, can you remember first coming to Vegas? Elvis, sure, I was 21 years old, nobody knew me. Where are you from, boy? They would ask. Question, how do you like being a father? Elvis, I like it. Question, are you and Priscilla planning on adding to your family? Elvis, you'll be the first to know. Question, what things do you do when you're home at Graceland? Elvis, I ride horseback, swim, and talk with the tourists hanging out at the gates. Question, how does your wife feel about you being a sex symbol? Elvis, I don't know, you'd have to ask her. Question, do your wife and daughter Lisa Marie accompany you today? Elvis, Priscilla is here, but my daughter is in LA with her nanny. She couldn't make it. Question, how do you manage to stay so young? Elvis, I don't know. One of these days I'll probably fall apart. I've just been lucky. Question, do you think it was a mistake to do so many movie soundtrack albums? Elvis, I think so. When you do 10 songs in a movie, they can't all be good songs. Anyway, I got sick and tired of singing to turtles. Question, when you met the Beatles, no press was allowed. Why was that? Elvis, I think because we could relax more that way and we could talk candidly together. Question, what do you think of the Hollywood scene? Elvis, I don't go for it. I have nothing against it, but I just don't enjoy it. Question, how long did you rehearse for these shows? Elvis, I practiced for nearly 3 months. Today I went through 3 complete dress rehearsals. This was the 4th time I did that show today. I'm really beat. Question, are you trying to change your image with songs like In the Ghetto? Elvis, no. Ghetto was such a great song, I just couldn't pass it up after I heard it. There are lots of new records out there now that have the same sound. But they're better. I mean, you can't compare a song like Yesterday with Hound Dog, can you? Question, Mr. Presley, I've been sent here by Lord Such Enterprises to offer you £1 million sterling to make 2 appearances at the Wembley Empire Stadium in England. This price will include a documentary that will be filmed during and after the show. It will only take 24 hours. Elvis. Elvis points to the Colonel and says, you have to ask him about that. Colonel Parker, just put down the deposit, son. Question, is it true you get paid in international stocks? Colonel Parker speaks up again. Certainly not. The only thing we get for free are the crickets in the rooms. Elvis, is there any other question? Elvis, is there any other individual you would rather be? Elvis, are you kidding? Twice nightly for 28 days, he will be appearing for the rich and their womenfolk. It is, he says, the most exciting thing I've done in years. But it was the first appearance on the first night that had all the drama. It had been 8 years since Elvis had last done a live concert. 8 years of recording sessions and movie making. 8 years since he had felt the electricity of a packed house. Those around him had no doubt he'd be bigger than ever. Deep inside, probably Elvis knew himself. But at the moment, he was sweating through his black mohair suit. He started walking to the stage. Elvis became very quiet. You could see in his eyes that he was thinking about the show, going over the song list in his mind. His tenseness was contagious. Soon those around him were all nervous for him. Comedian Sammy Shaw finished his act and the house lights went down. The audience was hushed. The Bobby Morris Orchestra began to play. No further introduction was necessary. Nervous timer turned into showtime. Elvis was back where he belonged. His concerns, of course, were unnecessary. He performed brilliantly for 90 minutes. He fed off the people. Though nervousness caused him to sing Love My Tender instead of Love Me Tender, he quickly settled down to work his charms. He worked and sweated, gyrated and shuddered, warbled and sang, grunted and groaned his way through 20 songs. It was a sensational comeback. Looking as slim as a ramrod and not a day over 23, he ambled back onto the stage after a 9-year absence like a sheepish young lad going to meet his girlfriend's parents for the first time, hardly daring to look or acknowledge the audience, which was composed of mainly over 30s, since young people could never normally afford the price. He went straight into blue suede shoes and had completed I Got a Woman and That's Alright Mama before finding it necessary to begin any chatting. Oozing the sullen sexuality that threw the Americas into a state of shock in the 50s, he again groaned and swiveled through a medley of Jailhouse Rock, Don't Be Cruel, Heartbreak Hotel, All Shook Up and Hound Dog. It was hard to believe he was 34 and no longer 19. For over an hour, he performed to near exhaustion, moving wildly and sexily around the stage all the time, and now and again reaching for a handkerchief or a glove from the ecstatic and many splendid ladies in the front row. Although his early fans are grown up and mothers themselves now, Elvis has remained the boy from the South, awkward, shy, full of evil promise, and a dynamic performer. Only celebrities and big spenders were there opening night to hear Elvis sing a lot of oldies and one new song with a new message aimed at the black rock market in the ghetto. Chronicles the evils of poverty in a Chicago slum and could signal the birth of a social conscience for Elvis. As Elvis came off the stage, he had tears in his eyes and was soaked in sweat, but this was the sweat of a job well done. He sang great, and the fan response was overwhelming. The series of concerts broke house records, drawing more than 100,000 people and grossing $1.5 million. He earned a reported $100,000 per week. Throughout Elvis's residency in Las Vegas, he performed more than 630 shows for millions of audience members. These Elvis fans not only got to listen to the King's smooth voice and watch his infamous dance moves, but they were also treated to high-end dining while in the showroom. Unlike many showrooms, the 1960s and 70s, the menus at the International Hotel allowed guests to dine on lobster, steak, their favourite wine, and spirits. The black herringbone suit, also called the Black Cossack suit, is like all suits this first Las Vegas session, a two-piece suit with top and pants always in the same colour. The inspiration of these suits was retrieved from karate outfits, so Elvis could easily move on stage. The black top is like a long sweater with a big acute chest opening. A zipper under the left arm and down make it possible to undress this tight suit. A herringbone pattern is sewed around the chest opening and the small collar 2 inches wide. The pattern ends at the end of the chest opening, and this is the only herringbone suit made this way. The suit also has a small loop that keeps the bottom of the breast part from coming apart. On each side of the sleeves there is one black button. All the other herringbone suits have 2 buttons on each side. The top part of the outfit has a smooth and pleasant silky fabric lining. The pants are black and quite simple in design, with the same silky fabric lining. We can only imagine how hot it was for Elvis to perform in these dark outfits, with quantities of spotlights pointing at him. The 2 inches wide and black fabric belt, inspired by a karate belt, had the same herringbone pattern with approximately 6-inch long fringes at each end. The belt was tied around the top part of the outfit, always on the left. This was the first version of the black herringbone suit, black Cossack suit, or black karate style suit as it's known. It was used for the first time on July 31, 1969, opening night. This suit became a cherished memory of his comeback as a live performer and can be seen on display at Graceland today. For those first performances, Elvis also wore the navy blue herringbone suit during this engagement, which you can see right there. It's called the navy blue Cossack suit or the navy blue karate style suit. It's also on display at Graceland. In some pictures it looks like Elvis is wearing a navy blue suit, but it's the light in the showroom colouring the suit. Because of that, it's sometimes hard to tell these 2 suits apart, because it is a really, really dark blue. There was a 3rd suit that Elvis wore on this engagement. It was the white Cossack suit. In 1970, these 3 suits will be modified and used during his 1970 engagement. So there we go. Hope you all have enjoyed the lead up and the first concert. Now the song I am doing, I have found audio of that July 31 opening night concert, and I've picked one of the songs to do for you. It is real audio from that night, but the vision is taken from all of the concerts in that period. So they're all August 1969, but this actual sound is from the opening night. So guys, sit back. I hope you all enjoy listening to that Elvis sound of the first concert.
Wise men say only fools rush in, but I can't help falling in love with you. Shall I stay? Would it be if I can't help falling in love with you?
Don't you love the way that he's actually doing this song? It is how he did it in the comeback special, only with the added more orchestra. I think it's brilliant. Over the years, as we know, he turned it into a faster version, more movement. But I think this first version of him doing this in concert is absolutely beautiful.
Like a river flows surely to the sea, darling, so it goes. Some things are to be. Take my hand, take my whole life too, for I can't help falling in love with you. For I can't help falling in love with you.
So there we go. Tell me what you think of that first version of Can't Help Falling in Love with You that he performed on the 31st of July 1969, his opening night back on the road. Guys, I hope you have enjoyed this week's video. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about the song. And next week we'll continue on with our Elvis concert years. We'll go to 1970. And then we'll just continue all these after that. I will try my best to add all the jumpsuits in that he wore for that particular engagement and get as much information there to you as we can. So, guys, I hope you all have a great week. You all take care. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. I do read every single one of them. Hope you all have a great week. Take care of each other. Bye.